Scott, we had really good conversations on your meetups the past 2 weeks about like data products, data quantum. What is this? I'm curious, what have you seen in your interviews and working with companies? Like, what would you say a data product is? And I don't even mean theoretically, like if you have an example from JPMC or someone, like what was a data product that they started with? Was it a net new project? Was it, we've done this for 10 years, but we want to make it better? What have you seen? I think sometimes that example could be helpful.
Yeah, so Carlos Sauna, episode 150, talked about this a lot. He said, if you try and do lift and shift, you will fail. If you try and do lift and shift with data mesh, because you're also trying to increase capabilities, you're trying to do this thing. So they said, some stuff is replacement if the team wants to replace what they're doing. Kurt Gardner at Nib Group talked about using this thing called the strangler fig pattern, and you just start to wrap things around it and pull out more and more capabilities as you need and things like that. But if you just try and do lift and shift, you're going to fail because no lift and shift ever works. I tried to do lift and shift with my life when I moved to the Netherlands. It did not go well. I've got many, many stories. So what does the data product actually do is there has to be a very, very specific use case, and you have to leave room for learning how to actually do data products, how to create more data products. But how a data product looks to the data owner versus the data engineer versus the business analyst versus it's different for everybody, and trying to get super, super specific versus what does this persona care about and what do we need to deliver to them so they can deliver value. That's where you go and you find the repeatability, but it's a conversation I keep having, and I haven't found anybody that's given me a good answer. And I've asked about 250 people. And I don't have anybody that's given me a really, really clear, good answer. So.
Matthias, anything on building or starting with a data product? Is it net new? Is it an existing, I was going to say project?
Yeah, my advice is, when people want to get started, it's ideally start to where there is an existing pain point, right? Where maybe introducing something as a data product can immediately alleviate the pain, can show some value, ideally immediately in cooperation with some business data consumer who will then say, hey, great, now with this data product, the data is better, it's more reliable, it comes more frequently, right? So that you have an early success story. And if that goes well, that gives you the momentum then maybe to build the next 2 or 3 data products. That is a pattern that can work well if you can identify those opportunities with people who are willing to take the leap to try this out, right? Those you need to find as well.
Abhi, what about in your experiences?
I would, I would just double click into what Matthias just said, and we can talk about the use case at Flexboard and kind of one of the places we started, and that was in terms of thinking about external facing data products, external facing data assets, whether they're raw data or customer facing data. And I think that's a great place to start because for a lot of organizations, engineering organizations, data producer organizations, when they think about production SLAs, they don't think that applies to data, right? But there are some things that very much intersect production SLAs and the needs of internal data, and that's customer-facing reporting and analytics. And so that's actually where we started initially. The customer-facing reporting analytics team at Flexboard, we were very intentional about exploiting, their positioning in the organization. Now that RNA engineering team, it was a tough place to be. They had data engineers that needed to look, upstream across the entire, canvas of microservices and teams, and basically write their own ETL jobs, then compare those pipelines across any other pipelines that were being done to generate maybe internal reporting. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of redundancy, it's a lot of risk. There's all these implicit contracts, upstream. And so that is a great place to start. And so what that looked like concretely is, number one, embedding an AE in that RNA group, that reporting analytics group, working backwards to try and analytics engineer, right? This kind of data architect person, working backwards to identify, upstream, what are those most important data producing domains, and then going to those producers, which is a kind of a bounded place to start, and being intentional about messaging the use cases here, which are production. It's a critical production application. It's downstream reporting. It's customer facing, right? Working with those producers to narrow the scope of this kind of data mesh experiment, this data product experiment, to building just data products that are necessary to support those reports. C, embedding AEs into those domains to handhold those producers to actually define out those products and those contracts. And then D, using that process as a template, as a launchpad, to get those groups to think broader about how to expand their kind of data product lifecycle, and use that to think about mesh boundaries. So for us, I think a good place to start is how do you meet this incentive problem? How do you meet engineers where they are? Well, a great place to start is where they're used to thinking about production SLAs, and this is a place that's very salient that intersects a lot of the internal data use cases as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I strongly agree. I think there was a point that I was going to make that was just perfect from this. When we think about what we're actually working with these people on, we have to give them the room to actually experiment and to actually do this stuff, because exactly what you're talking about, of if you're not clear about what are the expectations, and that's in the contracts, but it's also in like person to person. And here's the question that I was going to ask. Sorry. I'm a little chaotic because I'm very sick, but Matthias and Abhi, have you seen, Abhi, you were just kind of talking about this. Have you seen somebody creating data that wasn't specific to a use case that then generated a new use case and didn't require them to actually change the data product? Because when I'm talking to people are not finding ways to create data products that people can consume from, and in general generate significant value from use cases. They're like, oh, this is kind of interesting stuff. But nobody is, like every single person that I'm talking to, there's something that's very specific to the use case. And why is that? Is that because people don't know how to consume from data? Is that because we don't know how to model and share the data? So sorry, Austin, to take everything over.
I've certainly seen companies producing data products, both that are geared towards specific use cases, but also what maybe you can call intermediate data products that are not geared to specific use cases, but that are meant to be reusable for a variety of use cases, right? And that reusability is important as well to achieve some scalability, right? Now, I think you asked, has it been possible then for specific data consumers to use such an intermediate data product for their use case without making further changes to their data, right? I'm not sure, but this is then also about monitoring how the data products are being used, right? If you can monitor what kind of queries are the consumers doing on my data product, how are they combining that data product with other data products? If I see complex operations there, well, then obviously my data product was not geared to what they need, right? And then I can learn from that, build another version of the data product that maybe, that maybe allows them to derive a value with less effort on their part.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to make a pithy spin on that, which is that I agree. Sure. It's that, look, building data products is treating data as a product, right? Data itself as a product, and products evolve, right? Products are not static, and products, go out to the field, and we do qualitative research and quantitative research, and they create feedback loops. So yeah, I agreed with the dynamism point you're trying to make, Scott, and in the wild, the importance of that dynamism as the spirit of data products as treating data as a product itself.